It is 6 p.m. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Clarkdale Town Council meeting on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. In the Clark Memorial Clubhouse. Roll call, Vice Mayor Hunsetter.
Here.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Babbitt Pierce.
Present.
Councilmember Jones.
Present.
And please note that Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. We have a quorum. As I've done several times in the past, I'll do it again. That is to read out the vision for the town of Clarkdale. The town of Clarkdale connects a unique history, proximity to the Verde River, and small town charm to a future with a vibrant economy. We cultivate an environment where residents and businesses can thrive, providing services and jobs for our residents and capitalizing upon tourism. We sustainably enhance our infrastructure, support the arts and education, and develop recreational opportunities to create a bright future for our entire community. And before we get started with the next item on public comment, I just want to welcome two young women to our audience tonight, Ruby and Lila. You want to stand up for a moment? Ruby and Lila are the grandchildren of our Park and Rec director, Joni Westcott. Welcome, both of you. They wanted to come see what we did, what we tried to do, okay? So welcome, thank you. With that, let's go to public comment. This is time for members of the public may give comment of a general nature. No official action may be taken by the council during this time unless it is to direct staff to look into a matter. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes. If anybody is on Zoom, the town clerk will make a note for me to invite them to speak. But let's go to the public that's here. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment? Please come up and state your name and where you're from.
Good afternoon, council members, mayor, vice mayor, town manager, and townspeople in Clarkdale. My name is Drake Mankey with Clarkdale at 849 Main Street. I'm here to give you an update tonight on the 901 Main Street property. Many things are moving. Electricity should be back on in the building within a month. Major effort there. It won't be full scale electricity, but it will be on enough to accomplish what we need for the next 6 months or a year or so. After that, it'll go into another phase. The paint on the south wall, or excuse me, on the east wall facing 9th Street will be removed and in the near future as well. That's a Brownsfields project that's going to come up, remove that paint off the brick wall. It's about 1,000 square feet of paint. Today's industry standard for removal of lead-based paint is about $15 a square foot. So it's a major quantity effort as well. I'm here tonight to give you the broadest public awareness of what's going on the 901 Main Street building. So everybody knows what we're turning that building into. It's going to be part of the museum, extension of the museum. You can call it an annex or something like that. We're going to be doing the front windows first up on the building and the showcase windows to display to the public in the town of Clarkdale first. So improving the visual appearance of the building will be the very first thing. As many people have noted, difficulties in the town of Clarkdale, maybe not enough stuff to do. This will put something in those windows down the road. And that project will start in March, I mentioned earlier, and so forth. But also, it's even starting here in the next month with this electricity and so forth. So we're going to be working with many folks around the community, like the Clarkdale Historical Society and the Clarkdale Historical Preservation Commission as well. Old blueprints to whatnot to put that project together. And permits will come about in the near future, but not immediately, but they will be coming about. We're not going to be building anything right now. We're removing excess stuff still from the building and so on. I'm going to show you a couple artifacts that are going to go into the building of the windows. These are going to be really nice. We're going to display a fashion display in the windows to the public. So when you walk by, you'll be walking like by Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City. No problem. However, everything's going to be made out of copper and not just regular material. So I'll show you a few things here really quickly. We're not going to go cheap on the project. You're going to see clothing by Versace and other famous designers throughout the world. Some of the items in here will be shirts and dresses. If I can get this out of here. Let's do it over here. Get nice looking materials and so forth. In the windows, we'll be presenting shirts, women's clothing, as well as apparel and whatnot. Even cover. So we're gonna have that. Here's a men's shirt, by the way, probably disco era. But we're gonna have all ages of clothing. It won't be just brand new things or something like that. So you'll see that. There's a pair of Versace pants, by the way, just in case somebody wants to wear them for Halloween. They're waiting for you. It should be very attractive in the show windows on mannequins and so forth as well. The copper sequins also, here's a skirt you might be interested in wearing after Halloween or something as well, but it's meant to garner attention and get somebody out of their car versus just passing by. So we have pants and other things as well for guys. I'll wear these for Halloween. Here's some good looking stuff. But it's a tall looking guy, so if there's somebody tall in the audience, wear these pants.
With bell
Or
bottoms.
at least, yeah, you notice bottoms on these,
Mhm.
upside down.
I look forward to seeing you at Halloween and
Yes.
We also have shoes and other things. I'll show you just a few really quick. And I'm done. So these might fit on somebody. These pumps. We'll have many pairs of shoes and boots that are made out of copper colors, copper sequins, copper everything. So they'll be amongst many styles of shoes in the window. We're hoping that garners attention. So if there's no questions, that's what's coming down the road. And we hope you enjoy it. It will take a little bit of time, but it's in the works, just to let you know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you, Drake.
time. Any other public comments? Hearing none, see no one coming up to the microphone. Why don't we move on to item 4 on the agenda? And this is always a pleasure to do, is introduce a new staff member. Bailey Cosman, stand up and I'll let Joni introduce you.
You come on up there. So, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor, I would like to introduce our selection for the Parks and Rec coordinator for the Parks and Rec department. We are so excited, Bailey Cosman. Bailey actually grew up in the Verde Valley, went to Clarkdale Jerome School. She lives in Clarkdale and loves Clarkdale and was really excited to come on board with us. She's got an extensive administration background and excellent customer service skills. So we're really excited to have her on our team. And she's going to be great at facility rentals, handling that for us, and excuse me, community events, and handling our volunteer program. So let's welcome Bailey.
Welcome, Bailey. Always wonderful. And I don't know if last time Lou Anderson was introduced, but I don't think he was here in the audience. So Lou, could you please stand up? Lou is Clarkdale's Public Works Director. And Lou was with us as an interim about what, 2 years ago? Is that it?
Over a year ago.
Over, yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Welcome, Lou. Okay, let's move on to staff reports. The first item is current events. Our written reports were all submitted from Council Vice Mayor and myself. But I would thought there were 3 of us who went down to the League of Cities and Towns meeting last 2 weeks ago. It's almost 2 weeks now. So I thought I would kind of put everybody on the spot and say one thing that you came away with from the conference that you might want to share with everybody. And I'll start with Vice Mayor Hunsetter.
I always enjoy the keynote speaker on the first day and then the parade of flags. And I want to thank Councilmember Jones for carrying the flag and representing us so well.
And Councilmember Jones.
I concentrated on going to sessions about housing and particularly workforce housing and true workforce housing, not just the idea of market rate housing that somebody calls workforce housing. And so I came away with the idea, it will be a challenge for us to do that here, but I think it is possible. And so I got a couple of resources. I think some other people went to some other workshops that I couldn't go to. And so I hope that's something we begin to seriously look at and figure out how to bring to our community in the near future.
Very good. And we had also their town clerk, Charity Brooks was there, and town manager Susan Guthrie. And I'll let both of you say one thing that you came away from the conference with.
For me, it was a workforce housing session, but it was mostly about LIHTC tax credits. And they, on the panel, had for-profit developers who do tax credit projects. So it just dovetails with what you were learning about how we could work with them. And it ended up that the following week after that conference, Ruth went down to a housing conference in the Valley. And so everything that we've learned is starting to fit together and really give us a direction to move in.
And Charity.
I don't know if this is working.
I really enjoyed, I want to echo Vice Mayor's comments about the opening session. I really enjoyed listening to Kevin Brown about the hero effect. That has really touched me. I've actually ordered 2 of his books.
Oh,
They should be delivered today, so I'm excited to go home and get those. And I also really enjoyed the session on the media and how to react to media.
she and I were in that session. We did have a good time with that one. It was on the media, and so were you. I'll just do a couple of mechanics, I think, more than anything, during the conference. There's the annual meeting of the League of Cities and Towns, and there's 91 members. We passed several resolutions, but the main one, I think, actually has gotten some press coverage, is that we will be working on legislation to bring local control back to the communities on short-term rentals in terms of maybe capping them, where they're located, a number of items. So that is going to be, I think, a top priority for the League of Cities and Towns. And it fits as one of the sections of the housing situation. In some communities, it's a lot worse than it is here when you take anywhere from, in Sedona's case, 16% of their housing stock out of the housing it is in short-term rentals. That means there's a lot of houses not available for people who want to live and work in that community. And I think in Scottsdale, it's somewhere in the range of 25%. So that's pretty significant. So we've had some legislation go through, and we've passed ordinances on permitting and the like, but this is taking it up to the next level to actually bring local control back so that municipalities can have a better determination on how they want to handle the numbers that are in their community. So that was a key resolution. And swag, we came home with more swag than you know what to do with. So much so I made a little basket for Laura to have at the Big Brothers Big Sisters event coming up. So it's like 2 or 3 bags of swag. Nogales does mangoes and tomatoes, the best mangoes around. And Benson has the pizza cutter we call is life-changing. It is a life-changing pizza cutter. But I think the best part for me is just getting to see my fellow mayors across the state. And I want to say this, Clarkdale rocks. We hear all sorts of stories about what's going on in other communities. And I think most of us comment going, that doesn't happen here. Really? Oh my gosh. Not that they're being run bad, but they are having issues that we aren't facing here, which is wonderful. So we rock. We have a good time. It's always a pleasure to be able to represent the town of Clarkdale at the League of Cities and Towns. So with that, thank you all for a little bit outside on that. I thought we should just talk about what we got to do down in Tucson. Oh yeah, and Laura Jones knows all the best little restaurants down in Tucson. So we did have a lunch. One, but it was a great lunch for us to spend together. And Marnie and Lisa, we absolutely did miss you both.
Well, I thought Marnie was there, so I declared myself Empress of
Oh,
Clarkdale.
we know you did. And I heard about it too, you weren't the only one.
I apologize.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I was happy for you to have the title.
Okay, with that, let's go to our regional organization reports. Cottonwood Area Transit,
No meeting,
no meeting. Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization.
no meeting.
NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments.
There was a meeting on August 24th, and I had a family emergency that kept me away from it, so Town Manager Guthrie covered for me. And when the meeting minutes come out, I will be sure to forward them.
Okay, thank you. NAMWA, Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association.
No meeting.
Okay, TPAC, Transportation Policy Advisory Council.
We meet tomorrow.
There we go. Verde Front Leadership Council, we're meeting on September 25th here in Clarkdale. The Greater Arizona Mayors Association, we held the annual meeting at the League of Cities and Towns Conference. Mayor Alinsky of Cottonwood was voted in as president. Mayor John Hughes of Dewey Humboldt was brought in as vice president. We agreed to expand our group to include mayors from the municipalities in Gila, Greenlee, Cochise, and La Paz counties. So we're expanding to more of the rural areas. It's been mostly the mayors of the Northern Arizona ones, but we're bringing in the other ones. And we are looking at some advocacy items over the next year. One is supporting the work of the League of Cities and Towns around short-term rentals. Rural groundwater resource management legislation that we hope we can get some discussion going on. And I think that's pretty much it. And also all the housing issues around workforce housing. So those are kind of the key things. We have a meeting set up hopefully in October. They just had a doodle poll out. So, and we meet by Zoom on that one, which is really great. So that's my report on the Greater Arizona Mayors and Mayors Organization. Sustaining Flows Committee.
We meet next week.
Okay.
Tuesday.
And I believe the Yavapai Communities for Young Children is a quarterly.
It is. We have one coming up, but I can't remember when.
Okay, thank you. And all of those will be putting all of their written reports into record as we get them. Item C is the finance reports. All of those were submitted in our packets. Again, thank you, Julie. Really good information. We look really solid. Yes, and we're preparing for audit. I think we just got done with budget, now it's audit time, so it's like one or the other. Thank you so much on that. That's done with item 5. Let's move on to item 6, the consent agenda. There are 4 items on consent tonight. They are approval of the minutes from August 8th, transfers for the FY 2022-23 budget, memo of understanding with the Nature Conservancy. This is over developing a recharge optimization assessment for stormwater and effluent. And the 4th one is a deed of gift from the town of Clarkdale to the Clarkdale Historical Society and Museum. Do council members want to pull any items for discussion?
How about if we pull item D? deed of
Okay.
gift from the town of Clarkdale. to Clarkdale
Okay, we're
Historical.
gonna pull item D for discussion. So I'll take a motion on item A through C.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda items A through C as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve consent agenda items A through C. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. We've pulled item 4D, the deed of gift from the town of Clarkdale to the Clarkdale Historical Society and Museum. And this would be for gifting 120 2-seat folding wooden chairs, 72-seat folding wooden chairs, and an 8.5-foot section of bank teller wall from the First Interstate Bank. So that's what the deed of gift covers. So questions on this agenda item?
Just clarification, the bank wall, is that the section that the museum is currently displaying? Okay,
Is that? Yes, it is.
and with regards to, that's a lot of chairs.
That's a lot of chairs.
Will they be stored at the museum?
Will they be stored at the museum? Where's that going to be?
We've not determined the storage yet, but I think their intended purpose for many of them is a fundraiser. Mr. Lindner had pointed out to me previously that if we were going to get rid of them, they would want them because he showed me some, I think it was eBay or one of those online platforms, that they were worth some money. And so we offered to give them to them, to donate them for them to raise money for the CHSM. So we haven't worked out where they're going to store them or if they're going to stay here while they're selling them. And I think we could work together with them to
Okay.
figure that out.
Is there any other discussion on this item? Is it okay to open this up to public comment? Would you, okay, yes, please come up and state your name and where you live. You don't have to do your address, just where you live.
Okay, I'm Nathan Porter. I live in Clarkdale in Mountain Gate. And I'm the collections team leader for the Historical Society Museum. And I just wanted to point out this proposed deed of gift from the town staff has not been agreed to by the Historical Society, has not been even presented to the Historical Society until it appeared in the meeting minutes here. And I will tell you that first of all, for deed of gifts, it's normal for museums when items are donated to the museum does a separate deed of gift for separate donations. Each time there's a donation, the museum would complete a deed of gift with whoever's donating the item. This proposed deed of gift is asking that you cancel out all previous deed of gift agreements between the town and the Historical Society and Museum. The Historical Society does not agree with doing that. I mean, I don't understand the reason that there's a need to do that in the first place. Previous, the current deed of gift was regarding a large donation that the town made back in 2017. It was updated, it was changed in 2022 at the town's request, because there were items that the museum did not want to keep. And we made changes to the agreement so that the Historical Society could dispose of the items or do what we wanted to, which the previous agreement did not allow. So this current agreement that's proposed, as I said, has not been presented to the Historical Society. I would recommend to the board, I mean, our board hasn't decided on it yet. I would recommend to the board that we not agree to it. I will let you know that it's also possible that items can be loaned. If the town wanted to loan the bank wall to the museum, that is a possibility. So there are different possibilities on this agreement, and the Historical Society, has not heard about it, has not been in any discussions with the town. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond.
Is there any questions to Nathan? Yes, Lisa.
What's the issue? What do you not agree with?
Well, the new deed of gift says that the town has the first right of refusal on items that are donated when the museum wants to move them, sell them, or otherwise dispose of them. So basically, leaves a lot of control with the town. It's the best practice in museums that when you accept donations, you don't want to have a lot of conditions on them. I mean, that's part of deciding whether or not you want to accept the donation in the first place. I mean, what are the conditions? And the conditions that are in this proposed agreement in your packet are extreme. And also it cancels all previous deed of gifts with it between the town and the Historical Society. So that means everything that the town has donated to the museum is now virtually under control of the town. And we're in it.
I just want to note, though, that there in the agreement, there is an exclusion for the items that the council has already taken action on to release because we didn't want them back. It's not everything. It's just those things we've already acted on.
Which wasn't that the agreement that was most recently, not the one today, but.
That was
most
the
recent.
2022 agreement, was all about a list of items that they wanted to return. And we voted, the council voted to take some, but the majority of them said, you can dispose of them however you want. We don't want them. And so that was the nature of that deed of gift, was releasing those items.
I'd like to point out, I mean, I would ask that all the council members reread that 2022 deed of gift agreement. It does not specify any particular items. It says the items that the museum does not want to keep. It's up to the Historical Society to do what we want with them. And that was in line with what the town's wishes were at the time.
And if you look at the entire package that came before council, it was 100% focused on those items that they listed that they wanted to return to the town. And we said, we don't want them back. Here's the deed of gift for those items. So it's an interpretation that CHSM is making, that it is broader than that agreement is intended. And I don't believe that that's our town, our attorney's opinion of that deed of gift. Yes.
Marnie?
Well, I think we all view ourselves as stewards of the history of Clarkdale. And this is an important piece. And as long as the museum is operating and can control those items and make them accessible for our whole community, that's great. But at some point when, for whatever reason, they decide that that's not in the best interest of the museum, that's fine. But these are things that are irreplaceable. And so I think that we as the town need to be good stewards and have the ability to say, yes, you're right. That's not something that we need to maintain for our history. Or, you know what, that is something that is actually very important to our history as a community. If you don't want to maintain it, we will take it back and happily maintain it. And I can't imagine us giving up the ability to say, this is important, we want to keep it for our town.
Any other comments from council members?
Okay. I mean, to me, I kind of equate it to, a friend admired my great grandma's vase and it went with her new decor, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, certainly, you know, I was in a position where I let her have it, but under the condition that if she didn't want it anymore, I wanted it back, or at least, you know, let me know, give me first right of refusal. So, only because, you know, I want it, and it goes even, I kind of equate it to something even more precious in the world of pet adoption. And I can say specifically greyhound adoption. If you adopt a greyhound and then you find out that you sign a contract that if you can't care for that dog any longer, it comes back to the group, and that's to keep it out of the shelter. So, you know, kind of an analogy there. I think that was always our understanding, that the items were really on loan to the museum. I mean, the museum was originally set up and chartered by a former councilwoman, you know, Pat Williams, way back as I was a new citizen in town. And I think it was an avenue to get town artifacts under, you know, some control, and able to have community members view those things and be able to appreciate them too, and not have them in storage. So I'm sorry that there was a misunderstanding, but I think that it's always been of this council and past councils that, you know, we should have that opportunity to review if those items were to be disposed of or something, that we have that first right of refusal.
Oh, I regret that you have that opinion of the museum, that we take the items that we have been donated so lightly. We have a board of totally dedicated volunteers. I mean, our purpose is to show the items, display the items for the town to see, because this is a very interesting historical community. And we take, you know, a great deal of interest, a great deal of thought. When we make displays, we don't get rid of, we don't just throw things out at the museum. I mean, I wish you could be at our board meetings, you would see. We don't just throw things out. If we have 5 copies of something, yeah, we would probably get rid of a couple of them, because we have to be practical about our storage uses. But if there's something that's important to the town, of course we keep that. And remember that there are deeds of gift where you donate something to the museum, and there's loans. They're completely separate items.
So
I
are
don't-
you
I-
suggesting that we don't give the museum any of the items, but loan them? Is that your suggestion?
Well, I'm talking about the bank wall in particular. I mean, if this town is very concerned about what's going to happen with that bank wall, it could be a loan. There's paperwork about the loan. It says, well, you know, we have certain conditions on the loan. We won't move it. We won't, you know, sell it. I mean, we're not really going to move it, but you can have conditions if there's a loan. So regarding the bank wall, yes. The museum would prefer that be in a loan if the town has concerns about what's going to happen with it. As far as the chairs go, we need to discuss that with the town. We don't agree with the proposed agreement.
I think this is not about a matter of trusting the museum at all. We trust that you know what you're doing and the whole thing, everything that you've talked about. I don't disagree with that. But also, this is a relationship. This is items that have been a part of the town. And I think having the right of first refusal, if you wish, if there's a disposal of the item, gives us the right to say, yes, this is something we want back. And that we keep track of that, and to keep track of those items as well, because they have been a part of this town. And so it's really not a matter of trust. I think it's a matter of due diligence and responsibility that we have to ensure that if there's an agreement if you want to dispose of items, or if we want to give you items that when they get disposed of, if they need to, if they stay in the collection, that we get a first right of wanting them back. And that's all this is about, Nathan. So I don't believe it has anything to do with our feeling that the museum doesn't know what they're doing. We absolutely know that you are archivists and that you are taking care of this wonderful collection. But in previous deeds of gift, we always had first right of refusal. We're not sure how it got dropped out of the 2022, which was specifically for the items that were asked that we wanted to dispose, and I remember that very vividly.
Oh, I just ask that you all look at that agreement and
Well,
see what you
Okay,
determine from
okay.
that.
and just from a procedural perspective,
Mhm.
Town Manager Guthrie, you brought this to council to approve it, then to go to the board
Right,
for your review and discussion.
which is our
Yes.
standard procedure, right?
Yes,
This is just the
yes.
first step.
That's why you haven't necessarily seen it, because it hasn't been approved here yet before it would go to.
Because we have
To
these
bring to
things,
your
is it
board.
okay to give them? Yes, we say it's okay to give them, now go ask them. if
And
they want them.
then you get to discuss it.
You don't have to
If,
sign
if,
it.
if you, Michael, if you want to have something to say, get up here and up at the microphone, please.
Thank you. Mike Linder, resident of Clarkdale. Yeah, I guess just from my perspective, the way to work together would be to discuss this stuff up front before it comes to council. My recommendation simply would be, since you know that at least from two board members' perspective, what's been presented is not acceptable. We have not had the chance to discuss as an entire board. We would like that opportunity. We would request that you just table it. Seems like the best thing to do until we can work something out that's mutually agreeable, and then bring something to the council that you know is going to be agreed to. So it's not real, don't really feel trusted when I go out and look at the council agendas and I see something out there that affects us directly. It changes significantly the most recent agreement, controls where we store things and so forth. And I know that that was an issue that was raised earlier. So we need to discuss it, and we need to discuss whether or not we would accept those things under those conditions. As you know, we got a very small museum. We make the most of what we can in the space we have available. Downstairs is supposed to be a work area and an archives area. There's nowhere to store stuff. Sounds like there may be some opportunities to continue storing them in place. We'd like the opportunity to work that out with town staff. So I would recommend the course of action would be to table what's there and regroup. So thank you.
Yes, Lisa.
So the town council has had many discussions, and we have worked a lot on this agreement. We have, you know, it doesn't just pop up when we go, oh, okay. Now this, if we pass this, then it's giving the museum an opportunity to do that same work. I did not see a time constraint on saying you must sign this now. So I see the ball in your court.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
I think this is just authorizing the, consider an act upon deed of gift
Yeah.
for the town manager to move forward with
Yeah.
this proposal.
Yeah, and I'd just like to clarify something that town manager said. The way we found out about the chairs and the other items was the town put out a surplus list. And at the time, I was talking to Councilperson O'Neill. I wanted to make the town aware that those chairs do have some value. Depending on your geographical location, they can fetch a couple $100 a pair. May not be here in Clarkdale, maybe it's someplace back east. It wasn't at that time, you know, our intent to take the chairs. It was to let the town know, hey, if you're going to sell them, you know, don't give them away for $1 a chair, so forth. The town, probably Lisa and Susan's, came up with the idea to donate them, and we appreciate that, but recognize that several hundred chairs is not something that we could sell as a fundraiser very quickly. It would take a long time. There's probably a certain number of those chairs that we would retain for use in the museum, And if we ever get a larger facility, they may have a use, for their original intended purpose. But we don't have the ability to store them if the town was to disapprove of the plan that we worked out. We're not going to spend money on a storage facility and so forth and that type of thing. But anyway, I think the message is go forward, bring it back to us. We'll get back with you and we'll figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda item D.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve a consent agenda item D as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Thank you for the discussion. Let's move on to new business, item 7. The first one is agreement with Retail Strategies for consulting services. And I believe Town Manager Guthrie will be speaking to this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. All of us have really watched the last legislative session closely because there were a lot of items that were being proposed that curtailed local control. And most of them we were able, along with the League of Cities and the governor's office, were able to avert crisis. However, one of them at the very, very end of the session, when they came back, they did pass Senate Bill 1131. And what this Senate bill did was it took away our ability as a local government to assess rental tax on rental properties. It's not short-term rentals, it's just regular rentals. This accounts for about $125,000 of our general fund revenue. So it's not minute, it's pretty significant amount of money. We knew it was under discussion. So while we were developing the budget this spring and summer, we wanted to take some kind of action to make sure that we weren't left high and dry if we didn't have that money and we had planned on it. So we budgeted the expense of that money, that amount in contingency, just in case, because we didn't know when this was going to go into effect. Would it be immediately or would it be, at some future date? So that money now rests in contingency. The bill in the end was, it doesn't come into effect until December 2024. So when we're doing our budget for this next fiscal year, we'll need to back that revenue source out as it will stop coming to us at that time. So right now we have that $125,000 that we will continue to assess for this year, and it's sitting in contingency. And so, basically what that told us as the leadership team was, we got to figure out how we're going to cover this $125,000. And, we have lots of ideas, but one of them is really to focus on economic development, which is also in your strategic plan as a project and initiative. We've already been working pretty significantly, as you know, on the industrial area and what's going to happen with the future of that, what kind of businesses we can attract. And we've been working on all of that. But we also need to focus on 89A and other areas that we would consider commercial corridors. And so there's a couple of subjects covered in this council communication. And one of them is feedback that we've been given that there are some facets of the 89A overlay that could be inhibitors to development along 89A. So part of this discussion is that I would like to put together a working group, a council working group that would take the 89A overlay and look at it line by line and determine, are there things that harm us in terms of attracting businesses? We would like to have a couple of council members, 2 at least business or landowners from 89A and a business owner from 89A. And then a member of planning and zoning and a member of DRB to really sit down and go over it line by line and bring recommendations back that might improve that document so that we can not, that we retain our goals that the document were intended for, but we also don't inhibit development. So that's kind of the first part of this. The second part is, we really need to understand what we need in place in order to recruit retail in that corridor and then other corridors that are zoned for commercial. So there's a company that I've worked with in the past and a lot of other municipalities work with, and it's called Retail Strategies. So I've reached out to them and asked them to give us a proposal to work with us. And basically the proposal would cover market research, which includes trade areas, a gap analysis, retail peer market analysis, psychographic profile, segmentation analysis, and demographic research. So this is like when a retailer is looking for a place to come, they will want all that information. And we don't readily have all of that together. We piece it together, kind of pilfering off other people's reports, but specifically for Clarkdale, we don't have that and hasn't been gathered. So that's the first part. The second part is they come here in person and they do a real estate analysis. It's identifying and evaluating priority commercial properties for development, as well as active outreach to local brokers and landowners. So, that's really kind of dovetails with what we're talking about on 89A, but it also will look at the whole community and where are potential places that retail development could occur. And that basically prepares them for item 3, which is retail recruitment. They deliver a retail recruitment plan, summarizing all the customized analytics, the target zones and retail categories for recruitment focus. Who's going to fit here given our demographics? What kind of retailer typically would be a match for us? And then it also includes proactive retail recruitment, including representing the town at all retail conferences. So once we have the data of who we could potentially recruit, then they begin the process in tandem with us of reaching out to those businesses and asking them to come to Clarkdale. And I think this is really valuable information. If we learn that, something about Clarkdale doesn't lend itself to retail recruitment, we need to know that. We need to know it now so that we can regroup and reassess our strategies. But the best thing that could happen is we are able to recruit some retail businesses that would help to replace that $125,000 of lost revenue and more, hopefully. So what's before you is just me asking for your support and putting together the work group. There's no cost to that. And then also to sign the one-time contract for $55,000 for everything that I talked about from Retail Strategies. And that funding will come from the $125,000 we put into contingency from the rental tax revenue. I'm happy to answer any questions. I did reach out, as I said, I've worked with this company at another city, so I followed back up with that economic development director to just kind of say, okay, what has been the long-term impact? And it was very positive. And then I reached out to some other clients of theirs just to get, what was your experience? And it was all positive. And the last one I talked to said that they, in the first year, at the end of the first contract, they had 5 businesses that had moved to town. And, every community is going to be different about how easy it is to do that. But I would be thrilled to death if out of this investment, we got 1 business. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Laura.
It's not a question, it's more of a statement. I think that we are not only are losing this $125,000 from the residential rental tax, but the other income that has been coming into the town around taxes off of building is also decreased substantially. And so I think we do need to be very proactive in how we replace that income for the long term, because at some point, even if you built on every single lot in Clarkdale that you could ever build on, that money will run out and we won't be able to sustain the town without it. So I think this is a great idea. I think we need a partner who knows this industry, who knows how to do this kind of recruitment and can help us look at what fits here. not only, but physically fits here and is appropriate size-wise for here, and that Super Walmart may not be the right thing, but Sprouts now. You know, so I think that's important for us to work with a partner that actually knows that field and who can walk us and carry us through that project, that process.
And you are correct about the revenue streams, because another thing that happened was the state passed a bill to go to flat tax, and nobody really knows the implications of that at this point. So, you know, everybody's kind of waiting with bated breath to see what that means in terms of our revenues, but it is anticipated that they'll probably go down. That's our state shared revenues.
Right. Laura is correct around the construction sales tax continuing to decline for us also. Yes, Marnie.
Thank you. I'm just excited to see that we're looking at 89A and that entire quarter that I think often people forget is part of Clarkdale, but it is a huge part of Clarkdale, and there are some really great businesses out there right now, and having more businesses around will really support them as well. So I'm excited.
Or Lisa or Deb.
I'm fine. I like it.
I mixed feelings, of course. I am glad that we're gonna go out there and do the research and get the answers, and then we know how to respond. At the league conference, I was able to talk to some other small rural towns. Most of them are down south. They're struggling. They've lost their industry. They're losing farming families. They're, you know, they've just got a lot of problems, and they have, I mean, I talked to one mayor, and he lives in a town that's larger than Jerome, but smaller than us, and they go 40 minutes to get to a Walmart. And they just gotten a Dollar General, and that's helping with their tax base. But they're still struggling to find ways to sustain themselves and to help their residents and, you know, bring them out of, you know, the poverty levels. And I just, you know, we've got retail next door, but we don't get those tax dollars. And fortunately, through, you know, change in legislation, we do get tax money from, you know, internet sales and that, so that helps. But we also need some services. I mean, we don't have a grocery store, you know, maybe a Clark's instead of a Sprouts would be great. So I'm curious to see what's out there. I would be very interested in working on that and working with the landowners and understanding. I was part of P&Z back when we did that 89A corridor and did the planning on that. And I think it's time to dust off that plan and look at it again and get some professional view of it and see what they can offer.
Around the area around economic development has always been close to my heart, because I know that helps sustain us for the long term. So this is exciting for me. And I know what it's like to get this information that we have never been able to get easily. That has been one of the failings in the Verde Valley, in all of the communities. It's not just Clarkdale, because we're not what they call an MSA. There's an MSA in Prescott, but that MSA encompasses us. Flagstaff has an MSA and it encompasses us. So everybody else is defining our area. This is a chance for us to define our area. And I think that's what's really exciting about with real concrete information. So we know our community and we know what is doable here, what's buildable here, where we can build, where our strong points are, and where we might have to do a little work to make it much more enticing for somebody to come here. But working with professionals is great. This is going to tell us things about our already commercially zoned areas. What we can do. It's more information than we've had. And the 89A overlay actually started when I was on Planning Commission, and it was then further looked at with of Vice Mayor Hunsetter when she was on planning commission, and it is time for us to step back and say, what were we doing then? Is it still apply today? And how does this fit for us to possibly do some commercial development along, not just 89A, but parts of Broadway and all the commercially identified areas? Yes.
Just another thought comes to mind. I mean, I think we all recognize the fact that growth is coming. And we've said all along that we want to be able to steer that and make it the growth that we want to see, not just have a McDonald's come in and set up, you know, that's just really not a fit. So I think this gives us the tools that we will need to help steer what we want Clarkdale to be and continue to be, so.
Good point. Thank you for saying that. So any other comments? I think you're seeing great positives on this. All I think we need is a motion on the contract if there's no other comments from council. So I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we recommend council authorize the town manager to assemble a work group to work on the 89A overlay, review and approve the consulting agreement with Retail Strategies in the amount of $55,000.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to authorize the town manager to assemble a work group to work on the 89A overlay review and approve the consulting agreement with Retail Strategies. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Yay. Perfect. Item 7B, ADOT Transportation Alternatives Program Grant Application Ratification. Again, Town Manager Guthrie and whoever else you want to ask speak on this.
Katie, you got the PowerPoint? Thank you.
Oh, we have a PowerPoint and everything.
Just a few
Okay.
visuals, nothing fancy. Okay. So if you can go ahead and change to the second slide when you're ready. Okay, so not that long ago, the town through NACOG was made aware of an opportunity to apply for a transportation alternatives grant and or to be part of that program. And it was a pretty quick turnaround for us, which is why this is coming as a ratification, just timing wise. We really weren't sure that we were going to be able to make the deadline, but Virginia, Lou, Ruth, everybody worked together and we were able to put together an application to submit. And this application was accepted. And then we were recommended to move to phase 2 of the application process. But part of that was we had on the shelf, unbeknownst to most of us, a 15% design plan for this project previously. So in order to apply for construction funds, we had to be at 30% design. So having Ardura on contract really helped us because they were able to quickly move us into the 30% design phase so that we could apply for more than just design, but we could actually apply for construction costs. So these funds are set aside funds from the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, so federal funds under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law. So we've heard so much about that, particularly at the conference, and a lot of the grants that we're going after fall under this umbrella. But states are able to get their allocation and then have a competitive process among municipalities to distribute those. And so that's what we're applying for. It provides funding for many types of projects, pedestrian bike facilities. So that jumped out to us immediately. Construction of turnouts, overlooks just a myriad of local projects. So we really kind of looked at the grant and then all of us sat and looked at our CIP because we all have a commitment now that we're not looking for projects to match grants. We're looking for grants to match projects because we know from the CIP and from the strategic plan what you all want us to do. So we all know that probably the most requested CIP that's on our list is a sidewalk and bike lanes on Clarkdale Parkway. So we made the decision to try to get funding for that. Go to the next slide. So these bullet points are actually the bullet points that we shared with NACOG to ask for their support, because one of the requirements to even apply for phase one is to have NACOG's support. And so I'm not going to go through them all, but just some things is that we now do have 30% plans. There are many pedestrians who use this route, making it extremely dangerous. Since we applied, staff has been taking pictures as they drive by of people walking there. So now I have this collection of, people with dogs and children, walking up against that guardrail. So there are 2 bridges on this road that will be necessary in some way, shape, or form, because there are 2 big washes that this road crosses. And so that's really, it sounds like, well, couldn't the town just afford to do a sidewalk for, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but this one particularly is a very big deal. And Lou, when he was here as interim, when we first put this on the CIP, he came up with an estimated cost. And after all this design going to 30%, they gave us expected estimate of cost, which almost matched identical to Lou. So, but it's in excess of $800,000 that this project would cost. And, in a time when we need so many things, we need public safety, we need water and sewer lines and so many needs, it's hard to stop and do a new sidewalk for $800,000. So this was a great opportunity for us to apply for this. There's plenty of right of way to do the project. That's always a big deal. Are we going to have to acquire property? And we don't. And again, this is the most requested CIP project that we have. So this is the project site. It's basically from 89A, the loop with Cement Plant Road, all the way up to right before the park. And so it's going to connect both directions. People who are in Upper and Lower Clarkdale or downtown wanting to go down to Super One Foods, and also people in Mountain Gate and other neighborhoods along 89A to be able to come up and enjoy downtown and the park. So I think it's a really good connector, and I think that's why it's being looked at positively. Again, project design is at 30%, and I just wanted, I'm not gonna bore you guys with all the plans, but I thought this was meaningful to me, is what does the cross section look like? So you can see on the far left, there's a 2-foot shoulder, and then a 6-foot pathway, which will be the sidewalk, and then another 2-foot buffer, and then a 4-foot bike lane, then the 11-foot lane and another 11-foot lane going both directions, and then another bike lane of 4 feet, and then another 2-foot shoulder. So what you're seeing here is that the sidewalk will only be on one side of the road, not both. And that would exponentially increase the cost, but we feel like we can get this amount for the $800,000 and make it really safe for people. And I love the buffer between the sidewalk and the bike lanes. And
like
so
that
that's
too.
really nice. I mean, we're gonna have to address landscaping there, but we'll get there. So that's the cross section that's being planned. The next steps is, again, our phase 1 application was selected to move to phase 2. So we all had a party in the hallway when we got that email. Our additional application materials are due by September 30th. And this is where we turn in the 30% plans, a timeline. And a big component of this is public support. And so immediately we all started working on gathering letters of support from constituents who will be impacted. And really it's almost everybody, but particularly Mountain Gate neighborhoods. The school provided a letter of support. Both of our representatives from the legislature provided letters of support. So we're kind of working down the list. Yavapai Apache Nation's going to provide us a letter of support, but we really need a lot of resident letters of support. And so I did put it in the e-newsletter, and I put it on Facebook that anybody who this project will benefit send me an email, write a letter of support and either email it to me or just drop it by so that we can include those in that package when we submit it.
And even kids can write letters of support
Yes.
for this too, because you're the ones often using that.
Can we reach out to Jennifer, Mayberry? And
The bike people.
and ask the bike kids to write a
Yes,
letter of
that would
support?
be wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, and also this stretch is part of the bigger of the trails and a lot of other.
Yeah, it's really important.
So, yeah, it's good.
And Lou has been digging, because one of the questions on the next application is what other plans was this project a part of? So everybody's been digging into past, studies that have been done that are in the basement or whatever. And they're unearthing some things that are really going to help our application. So it's very exciting. So what I really need is just you to ratify the application because, per the FOG, I do need that to move forward.
Any questions? Yes, Marnie.
I was gonna make a motion.
All I want to say is truly, all of you in the audience, a letter of support would be fabulous on this, because residents make a huge impact. Yes, we have some really good partners already, but even more from residents would be absolutely fun. Great. So share it with your neighbors, ask them, just sit down. It doesn't have to be very long. Just say we support the town going forward with getting a sidewalk and why we need it. So that's all it has to say.
And just in case anyone happens to watch the minutes, my email is townmanagereasy@clarkdale.az.gov. Or you can drop it by
Town
here.
Or you can drop it off at Town Hall and it will be scanned in. So you can do it either way. So with that, I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we ratify the submission of the Transportation Alternatives Program grant application for design and construction of sidewalks and bike lanes along Clarkdale Parkway and authorize the town manager to execute the required documents.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve the ratification of the application of the Transportation Alternatives Program grant application for design and construction of sidewalks and bike lanes along Clarkdale Parkway and authorize the town manager to execute all required documents. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Yay. Oh, we might get a sidewalk. We made it to round 2.
How many rounds are there?
2.
Oh,
So the strength of this one is really important. We don't get another chance until another time. But we've got it. I know we do. So let's move on to item 7C, which is Yavapai Ranch Phase 3 FY25 Land and Water Conservation Fund. And again, Town Manager Guthrie.
So I'm gonna really turn this one over to you. Just as a brief introduction, we were contacted by representatives for the Prescott National Forest, asking for letters of support on this project. So I approached the mayor and we discussed it, and she wanted it to be brought before you all for, just a discussion to make sure you're all good with us providing a letter of support. And I think it's, really a great project because it's going to help protect our watershed, and it's swapping out ranch lands and making them national forests. And if my interpretation of the documents is if this land isn't swapped, it's prime for development, which then damages our watershed further. But I think many of you know more about this than I do, so I'm gonna turn it over to y'all.
I'll just make a quick comment. This was originally, some of us who have been around here a while, was originally part of another land trade that was proposed, which was called the Ruskin land trade. I believe if you read through this, the elder gentleman is Ruskin, and he's changed how he wanted to deal with this land instead of selling it like he wanted to do for development, which was a problem way back then. This is now selling it or exchanging it back with the Forest Service to take those blocks that are that checkerboard stuff and make it whole. And it really is in the Big Chino Basin. So it is really the headwaters of the Verde River. Laura, did you want
No, I know this is something that, you know, people have been talking about for years happening, so that there's movement to try to consolidate this acreage, I think is a very big deal. I think, as most of you know, Big Chino Aquifer is the headwaters to the Verde River. And there's a lot of effort on lots of different fronts to try to preserve that and keep that land from being developed. So I think this is one of those things that's being done, and the more of this that can be done, the more the headwaters will be protected. So I think it's a very good thing for us to support.
Well, I think we all know how important letters of support are in these types of things. So,
Ask everybody for one.
right, I would be in support of us lending support to protect the headwaters.
I'm just so happy that this is finally happening.
Oh my
Because it
gosh.
was torture, thinking that all, the development that was gonna go up there. So this is, having it protected is very near and dear to my heart.
And it looks to me like as they get money, they continue to buy pieces of it.
Yes,
So I think
yes,
that this is a
yes.
good ongoing plan and we should continue to support
Right.
that.
And I remember meeting with, when I met with the Prescott National Forest a few months back, they really highlighted this as something they were excited about seeing and happening. That was a positive, because that wasn't always the case when it was originally proposed, but under in another way. That was a very contentious battle. So this is great. Is there anybody online or anything on this? Okay. So with that, I will entertain a motion if we have any more comments.
Madam Mayor, I move that we recommend staff that we write a letter of support of the Yavapai Ranch Phase 3 FY25 Land and Water Conservation Fund.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Jones and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve the support of Yavapai Ranch Phase 3 FY25 Land and Water Conservation Fund, and authorize town manager and clerk to prepare a letter of support. Any comment on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to do this. Item 8, future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items? All quiet. We've had a big meeting today, so hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
It's been, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and second by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, we're done. Motion carried. Thank you all for being here.